let you know if any more are coming. Sometimes we might have to toot the horn out of kayaker or something, but not usually. But as I said, welcome on board Sabino. My name's Molly. I'm one of the deckhands. I'll be giving you a tour around the seaport. Do we have any returners in the mix? Any people who've been to the seaport before? Okay, we have a lot. Oh my gosh, we have a lot, so I'm assuming we, and then first timers, how many first timers we have? Okay, really only a couple. Well, I may repeat some things you already know, but feel free to interrupt me at any point with a question at all. So feel free to interrupt me with any questions. I will not take it offensively. But Sabino was originally built in 1908, so you're sitting on an over 100-year-old boat, 116 years to be exact. Originally built in East Booth Bay, Maine by W. Irving Adams. He was pretty famous for designing boats that were designed exactly like this one. They were coal-fired steamboats in their time, and they were basically meant to be carrying I couldn't talk for a second. They were ferries, basically. At a time when you couldn't hop on I-95 and hop in your car, you hopped on one of these instead. And it would take you along the coast of Maine wherever you wanted to go. It was not an ocean voyaging boat, that is for sure. And then eventually they brought her down to Mystic in the 1970s for a trial run year. That was basically, let's see if the town likes her. And from then on, she stayed here at Mystic. Everyone loved her, so she's been running tours ever since the 1970s here. And she recently, in 2020, Sabino did convert over to electric diesel engines, so we're no longer coal-fired. Because you can imagine having a lot of black smoke coming out of this chimney behind me is not the best for the air around us, so we did transfer over to electric diesel. But the seaport itself, everything you're looking at, a working seaport, a working shipyard, that's what it was in the 1870s. And if you want to see exactly what Mystic looked like then, feel free to check out our Mystic River scale model right here off the left side of our boat, the right side of our boat. That is actually going to show you exactly what Mystic looked like at the time, and even it will show you some of the buildings that we have here now that aren't on that Mystic River scale model, because along with receiving a lot of vessels here at the museum, we also received many buildings, such as the one directly next to it. That is the Block Island Life-Saving Station, that gingerbread-looking house. It's that brown building right next to the Mystic River scale model. At a time when there was no Coast Guard, they needed something to keep people safe out on the water, so they used buildings like that, and we moved it over by helicopter. We moved it over by helicopter all the way from Block Island like we did with many buildings as close as downtown Mystic. From as far as other places along the coast, we moved them by helicopter, crane, so many construction machines I really don't know about because I'm really a sailboat boat person. So they just know they got over here. So we just have all of these buildings here now to add more maritime history to the museum. And now we're coming up on one of my favorite vessels here at the museum. This beautiful boat is Schooner Brilliant. It's a Sparkman and Stevens design. They are famous yacht designers known for creating some of the most gorgeous designs of vessels. She was built in New York in the Great Depression, actually, to be used as a racing schooner. She was a racing yacht. And from then on, over time, the museum got her, and now her biggest priority during the summers is taking 15 to 18-year-olds out on 5 to 10 day voyages. Basically, they go as far as Block Island, Long Island, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. They're up at 6:30 in the morning rolling sails. It's definitely not like summer vacation, but that all happens on this boat, and she does still race to this day. She goes out at Oyster Bay and races as well. She does many yachting races and wooden yacht racing. So that is one of my favorite vessels here. Now we're going to be coming up on a lighthouse. Anyone been to Nantucket before? Just curious. Any Nantucket goers? Okay, a couple of them. This may look slightly familiar to you, I'm not sure, but it might. So for those of you who haven't been to Nantucket, there's no need to go, because you're looking at the replica of the Brant Point Lighthouse that's located on Nantucket. It's the second oldest lighthouse in the country. We did give them a call. This is a true story. We gave them a call, Nantucket, and we were like, can we have your lighthouse? We really want the Brant Point Lighthouse. They straight up said, no, we need it. And now we made our own replica that now that it's here, everyone seems to think we shrank it. And that is not the case. This is the original size of the lighthouse that sits on Nantucket to this day. And it is a working lighthouse. Technically, it does have a thread and a light inside. It's just dimmer than most, because you can imagine our neighbors would absolutely hate us at night if they just had that going through their windows. I wouldn't appreciate that, so we have a dimmer light. And this is a building that is the hub of all of our sailing education here at the museum. This is our Mystic Seaport Sailing Center. We offer programs for kids here as low of an age as 5 years old all the way up through adulthood. We offer programs aboard these C420s at the end of the dock here, those light blue, more intricate looking vessels. Those are for kids learning how to race sailboats and head into more high school racing territory. We're also very unique because we have these small dinghies called Dire Dows. That's the majority of the boats you see here, those little bathtub looking boats. They are 9 feet long and were original World War II lifeboats. Dire Dow, the company at the time, they created these boats to be used as lifeboats, and they were rowboats. And to this day, they're still rowable, but over the decades, Dire Dow created them to be able to be used as sailboats. So now they are sailable and rowable. They're a fan favorite among kids, adults, myself. I love them so much. They're so much fun to sail. And now we have them here. We actually have the most amount of them in America, which is pretty cool. So we offer after-school programs, summer camps, we offer adult programs out of here, but we also have a very long-running program we've had here at the museum, our Joseph Conrad Overnight Sailing Camp. Which if you veer your attention to the innermost boat here, I'll get to the outermost boat in a second. The innermost boat, that is the Joseph Conrad, originally built in 1882. She's an iron-hulled vessel, that's why you see that little bit of corrosion on her. She just needs a nice paint job. But this vessel basically is a sea dormitory for kids during the summer. They stay on board, they spend their nights on the Joseph Conrad, spend their days learning how to sail the Dire Dows, and it's been running since around the 1940s. And what's cool about this boat is originally it was a merchant marine sail training vessel in Denmark for 12 to 17-year-olds. And as you can see, not much has changed over time. We still have that same gauge group on every single week of the summer. And Little Vigilant that you see on the outside of Joseph Conrad, that's actually one of our private charter boats here at the museum. You can actually pay to have a whole captain, crew, and cook. And they will take you as far as you want for as long as you want if you pay for it. So that is one of our private charter boats here. And now we're kind of getting into the middle section of the seaport, which is going to have a lot of trade exhibits. So definitely check out the Shipsmith and Blacksmith if you haven't yet. That's the building with the 2 chimneys. They're basically doing live demonstrations of 1800 blacksmithing in there all day long. So it's pretty cool. We also have the Mystic Printing Press to check out, as well as nautical instruments. There's many exhibits here at the museum I definitely recommend checking out. But right here we're coming up on the pride and joy of the Mystic Seaport. This is the Charles W. Morgan. You're looking at the last standing wooden whaling ship left in the entire world. Originally built in 1841 in New Bedford, Massachusetts, she's the last standing wooden whaling ship from the American 1800s whaling industry left. She's known as the lucky ship these days, not only because she's standing here in 2024, but she also did very good as a whaler. She went on 37 voyages, which in her time was rather impressive. See, these whaleboats were not built to last, and they also looked exactly the same. So this very unique boat you see sitting in front of us right now actually looked exactly like every other boat. And they weren't built to last at all, and she went on 37 voyages that ranged 9 months to 5 to 11 years, which you can go below deck on this boat to see what that would look like. And if you're anything like me, that sounds horrible. It sounds like a lot of hitting my head in close quarters and a lot of odd whale smells. Ooh, not my thing. But in 2014, they eventually restored the Charles W. Morgan and took her out on her 38th voyage, which was not a whaling voyage, to be clear. There was no whaling done in this part of the world in 2014. They eventually restored her, took her out on her final voyage, and had a whole crew and captain, and sailed her from port to port, and even her birthplace, if you will, her home port in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where she was built. And she's a National Historic Landmark now, so when she was restored, everyone was very thrilled to see her at the docks when she came into each port, and they ironically did run into whales. On this voyage, they ironically saw whales just kind of gathering around the boat. There's many photographs, the crew looking over the side, and whales looking back up at them, and they were like, huh. And we do make a joke here, it's pretty dark humor, we're like, the whales definitely recognized the boat, because if you think about how long whales live, they would have recognized the boat. And as you can see, we try to get the sails up on her every day, even though that was her last sail. She will never go out again. She does get her sails up every day. We still do live demos, such as this whaleboat rowing, and we do man overboards and all sorts of different things that happened in the 1800s while this was under sail, except we just do them dockside now because she's on her last voyage. She has no more voyages left.
Building there that they're building.
They're building a hotel there right now. That will be a Del Mar boutique hotel. It's technically on Seaport property, but the Seaport leased their land, but the Seaport does not own the hotel. It can be rather confusing, but it is going to be a small boutique hotel that opens in the fall, which is pretty interesting.
We took this cruise quite a few years ago, and part of the narrative was this boat sank. No, it sank in the early 1900s.
Yep,
and then they got it back up and restored it.
Yep. This vessel has definitely been through its times. Like many vessels here, I mean, the Joseph Conrad has sank, crashed, been shipwrecked so many different times. It's amazing how it's still standing there. But this boat itself, I mean, the voyage down from Maine in the 1970s, that was another one that was definitely remembered most. They didn't know if that boat was going to make it here. They did not know if Sabino was going to make it here because it's not an ocean voyaging boat. I've heard many stories that it was a very bumpy ride, is how it's described, and they're surprised the boat made it in one piece. Because she was just a coastal ferry boat. She was not meant for high winds. She steers like a sailboat, is kind of how she steers. Yeah, but there's definitely many times that. And the Mystic River itself actually technically isn't even a river, but you can call it a river because I call it a river every day of my life. It's technically a tidal estuary. We originally got our name from the local Native American tribe, the Pequot tribe. They named it Mississauga, which meant moon river, a river depending on the tides of the moon, and that's exactly what we are. We have high tides, low tides ranging about 3 to 5 feet, depending on moon phase and astrology. And we also have brackish water in this river. So we have salt and fresh water. We have fresh water coming from down by that I-95 overpass. And we have all our salt water coming from past these two bridges, the drawbridge, then the Amtrak bridge, which if you follow the river all the way down, you're heading out into Fisher's Island Sound. You take a left, you're in the Atlantic Ocean. You take a right, you're going along Connecticut. And if you keep going straight, you're in Long Island. So there's a lot of places to go from here. So that's where all our salt water is coming from, out in the ocean, but it mixes all together. But over the years, we have actually been getting more saltier in this river. So we have been getting quite more different types of fish coming in, like these little dogfish, because usually we don't get anything quite interesting. It's jellyfish and things that are able to survive in this type of water. But recently we've had little baby dogfish, little sharks coming in, which aren't my favorite. If you are looking to get out on the water today, definitely check out our Mystic Seaport Boathouse right here, which is free with admission with your ticket into the museum. You're able to take out any of these rowboats, paddle boats, or sailboats. They have beetle cats over there, which are great and fun to sail. Definitely, if you are going to take out a sailboat, I highly recommend having a little bit of sailing knowledge behind you, or that will be one very interesting first sail for you. But they have a great staff over there. They'll get you set up with life jackets. They have safety boats, everything you might need, and they're really great over there. So definitely, if you want to get out in the water, check them out. Free with admission and your ticket in the museum.
This is closer. Yeah.
And then a little bit about the vessels we were near at the dock. The one that was directly next to us, Schooner Roseway, it is closed off to the visitors coming on right now because it does not belong to us. It is actually coming from Boston, Massachusetts. These days she's known as the World Ocean School, running programs for schools, maritime education programs, sail training programs, marine science, so many different programs. It's one of the most renowned maritime education programs in the country for sailing, for just basically ocean education. But her original use was in 1925. She was created as a Grand Banks fishing schooner. So she was a fishing schooner in her time, and she was then taken to be used as now the World Ocean School. She's here right now, though, for restoration, and that's why we can't have visitors coming on board. But right now she's here for restoration, which kind of leads us actually into our Henry DuPont Preservation Shipyard, which is our working shipyard here on campus. It is actually the country's largest wooden boat preservation shipyard. It's the largest one in the country. And we basically here work on our own boats, as you can see, we're getting boats from many different places. Roseway is just an example of a boat coming in for restoration from another place, but this vessel you see hauled out right here, that actually belongs to us at the seaport. This is L.A. Dutton. It was originally a fishing schooner, such as the Roseway right here. And what's interesting about these two vessels is you can actually compare their sizes. They're basically around the same size. It's just interesting to see Roseway in the water and Dutton out of the water, because Dutton is very large, and that means Roseway is just as large. And so Dutton's been with us since around the 1960s. It's one of the boats we've had the longest in our collection. We got our first vessel in the 1930s. That was Annie that came, and then we ended up getting L.A. Dutton. She's in a $6 million 10-year restoration right now. So we're currently 2.5 years in. So we have a long way to go. But all of these red buildings here that you see, that's all going to be part of our shipyard. During Monday through Friday, shipwrights are working all day long on projects, not only on our own boats, but also other vessels, such as our biggest project right now coming up, Susan Constant. You'll start to see a little outline of a painted boat back there that's hauled out. That actually just came in a couple weeks ago. Originally, it is a replica of the original Susan Constance, which was one of the 3 vessels to sail into Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. This is a replica of the boat, and it's actually the flagship of Virginia. So Virginia funded this restoration. They sent their vessel up here, and she was recently hauled out of the water, and as you can see, we have gotten started already on our project on her, so she'll be here for the next couple of years as well. And if you're wondering how in the world we get these vessels out of the water, because you can see so many hauled out, you're probably wondering where do they get them out. That actually all happens right here at the end of Shipyard on this dock. If you see those 8 red cap devices, those are actually 8 Rolls-Royce engines. At the time that the Charles W. Morgan needed to be hauled out of the water for her restoration, they looked at that wooden whaling vessel and they went, oh my goodness, how in the world are we getting this out of the water? So they built this dock, and Rolls-Royce was nice enough to sponsor it, I guess. And so basically these engines have the ability to lower the middle of this dock to the river floor, which then they put a cradle, which is actually around Susan Constance right now at the bottom. They usually wheel that cradle in, and they will help them guide the boat onto that cradle and then haul her up by way of all of these engines, and a lot of help from scuba divers down below and many vessels around kind of guiding them in. So that all happens right there. And Coronet is another vessel that does not belong to us. It actually was sent here. It was originally supposed to be being restored by somebody else, but they went bankrupt halfway through. And now we have her here. Until we get the money, we will start restoring once we have the funds from the people who are supposed to be restoring it. So that's the story of Coronet, but eventually she will go back to her original state, which actually was very Titanic-esque. It was, her hull down below had spiral staircases. It was absolutely gorgeous if you look at images of it. It is very Titanic, very yacht cruisy of its time. Spiral staircases, gorgeous floors. It was amazing. But it will go back to that eventually once the bankrupt people send us their funds. And now we're going to be heading into historic downtown Mystic, where you'll see one of the last bascule bridges left in around this whole area. Basically, this bridge goes up every hour, 20 of the hour during this time of year, but that's not the case all year round, because you can imagine we're in New England and no one's really boating in November, December, and January. So if we do at the seaport need to get a boat through during the winter time, you have to radio 4 hours in advance. So you better be planned out when you're going through the bridge. So we'll be turning around and you'll be able to see that. But it goes up every hour, 20 of the hour. We won't be going under it right now, but it also connects 2 towns together, Groton, Connecticut, and Stonington, Connecticut. And Mystic is basically just a city within those 2, and that can be rather confusing, where Mystic ends, but just lies in between this whole area.
a picture of that rubber duck out.
And along both sides of the river, we have historic homes all located around here. This whole area was known as Captain's Row in its time. And there's a lot of captains that lived there at the time. And you can even tell on top of the houses, they have those white picket fences, the rooftop overlooks. Those are called widows' walks. And at their time, basically, the captains would buy their wives a home, and they would basically wave their husbands goodbye every day when they came down the river for their voyage. They'd be like, goodbye, and then they'd come back every day on top of that rooftop overlook, waiting for them to return. And you can imagine with a name like Widow's Walk, didn't always have a happy ending. And yeah, there were some bad cases of people jumping off those when their husbands didn't return. It was a very interesting time in history. And Flotilla will be happening today. Flotilla is basically a yearly thing where they have a bunch of kayakers, live music, and it's a little festival out on the river. So that will be starting. Well, that sort of ends my seaport spiel, so I will let you all enjoy the rest of the cruise. As we're turning around here, that's when you'll get a great view of the Mystic Drawbridge here. Feel free to ask any questions though, but thank you so much for coming on board. I'll let you all enjoy our ride back to the dock. When you are exiting this top deck, you're going to want to avoid this stairwell, but I'll remind you of that once we get closer. But feel free to ask any questions. I'll be around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Very good job. So nice.
I think you should go to every one.
Yeah.
Every time you accompany, you bring.
Yes, and then they have the band.
Now I do.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's actually Anne's car. I understand whether that's
Yeah, it was hot, dirty, hot, and dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I remember right from when we went on this before, this sank like in the 20s or 30s.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it sank, and then I guess it was underwater for a couple of years, then they got it back up and resurrected it.
Did that help you?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
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 It was, well, it sank in Maine. It was up in Maine somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was like a ferry, a shuttle service, one from islands or on the coast. Yeah, I forget where it sank, but they had the history of it.
But unless it's a woody.
Oh, I'm sure that's all hope, yeah.
Yes, but I mean, just the nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't want to be on the top. I wanted to be on the bottom so I don't get sunburned.
Nice little summer cottages, yeah.
It's like when you put mansions, like all the summer cottages.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, what show?
Wow.
Yeah.
I would say it's because I got always tell everyone, clearly that's not working.
Well, we have a house in Narragansett, and if you go from Narragansett to Jamestown Island, real
Holy
estate
shit.
prices go. Jamestown Island to Newfoundland, they triple.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It is. It is a nice island, yeah. Yeah, they got a nice harbor down in Central Jamestown. That big old hotel that's in the sun, they turned that into condos years ago.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, they turned that into condos. That was quite a few years ago. Yeah.
Neither are you with that attitude. Well, these are mine. I'm only happy with
This ball came out. That's why you didn't want to drink it.
Yeah. Well, he works on that. And he loves it. I know.
they're volunteers.
I need some light tonight. I'm not
It certainly made the
All
right
right,
call
now
for
that we're coming back to the
tonight.
dock, thank you so much for coming on board, Sabino. Just when you're exiting this top deck, you're going to want to avoid this stairwell right here. This left stairwell is definitely going to be your best bet on exiting. That one's a little steep in the back. So thank you again for coming on board, and feel free to make your way down whenever.